Hello and welcome to another episode of TesterSpeak special feature. And I'm your host, Brijesh Deb. Well, with me today, I have somebody who is a proponent of testing, who is a proponent of Agile, and has her unique way of expressing her opinion. She is a good tester, a great teacher, and has a lot of things up her sleeve. She's one person who does not fear in calling a spade a spade. So without any further ado, let me welcome my guest, ILEANA Belfiore.
Hi, thank you, Brijesh, for the introduction.
Well, ILEANA, I know I messed up your last name, even though I just got it, but please excuse me for that. I will need a little bit of practice.
No, you done it right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, estoy bien. Gracias.
Well,
Which you know, I live in Spain, even though I'm Italian, but well, I'm been living in Spain for 10 years.
So since you are in Spain, you are in Spain, I asked you in Spanish. If you were in Italy, I would have asked you in Italian, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. Well, okay, so
you speak Spanish too. Good
no, I know a few words of Spanish because back in 2006, when I was in the US for the first time, I had this Mexican restaurant right across the street. And it was one of the best places where I've eaten Mexican food, all the burritos and, you know, all the cool stuff, the tacos. When I went there, I realized that a lot of people, they spoke in Spanish, and then I learned, because it was my first trip, I learned that, okay, this is a good idea if I also start learning a little bit of Spanish. So from the restaurant itself, I asked a few people a few words, you know, normally like greeting and things like that.
And so asking for food, which is very important.
And how do you order food and things like that. So yeah, that's my limited knowledge, but of course I love that language.
Really?
And there are some very good singers, Spanish singers, stars, whom I like to listen to. So yeah. Okay. So how has it been going for you during this Corona time with the lockdown and things?
Oh, this is a topic I don't really like to talk about because it's so crazy.
Okay, your size says it all. I will not. I will not hold you up for that. I know that a lot of people have similar expressions. So now let's come to a very interesting part for the audience, and everybody would obviously like to know from you, how did you get started with testing, and how has your journey been? You know, you are obviously from Italy, you live in Spain, so you've obviously traveled, and how did that happen? So throw some light.
How I started with testing? Well, it was by chance, you can say. We can say that, because I started my career as an analyst programmer in a very specific field, which is customer relationship management. So I was working with databases, basically, and I really enjoyed my job. I enjoyed talking with customers to understand their needs, and then writing functional documents and coding and supporting the customers after installing what they needed. And so all the supporting stuff as well. I like to be in all the process, to understand why I was doing what I was doing. And I think this is very important in our job, in our daily job. And so I enjoyed that, but enjoyed, and but then in 2011, I think it was. The crisis in Spain was so serious that I lost my job, like many other people did at the time. And so I spent 1 year, more or less, without any job. And in that year, I was looking again for a job as an analysis programmer, but it was impossible to find a vacancy in that area. And at the same time, I decided to spend my free time, let's say, because I had a lot of free time at the time, doing something very, very strange. That is, especially for a person who has a technical background, was a telecommunication engineer. I decided to do a master in Catalan proofreading. Yes, you can. I understand your phrase right now. And at the same time, I was interviewing for jobs, and when I explain these things, people usually thought I was crazy, because they said, well, you are an engineer, because you are an engineer, why you are doing a master in Catalan proofreading? But let's forget that for a while, and let's go forward into 2012, when a person found my profile on LinkedIn, the place where we met, by the way, Brijesh. And they offered me the opportunity to start working as a tester. Now, 2012, I have to admit, I didn't even know there were people who worked specifically as testers. And I'm very ashamed to have to say that, because I was an analyst programmer. Well, used to test my own code, or maybe the colleagues' code, but I have no idea what testing was really about at the time. So I started doing the job with, well, it was a very entry-level job, testing an application for voice recognition. And I realized that I enjoyed this job, and probably even more than my previous job. Well, I happen to enjoy all my jobs, by the way. But well, and when I started doing that, I realized I wanted to learn more about that. And the thing is, this very entry-level job was kind of strange, because we have no access to requirements, for example, due to a non-disclosure agreement. So we were testing practically on the dark, but it was not bad, because I think I was testing like a final user would test a product. I was using an application like a normal user would do. But I really wanted to feel again that that I could understand why I was doing what I was doing, and I needed more information. I needed to know the requirements, for example, or to be involved in more in the in the decisions, for example. And in this very entry-level job, I couldn't. So I started looking again for another job, a more challenging job. And I started interviewing again. At the time, I already have some experience as a tester, and I was interviewing again, and I used to tell people that I also had a master in Catalan proofreading. So again, most of the time people puzzle and say, well, why? And I have to admit, at the time, I also thought I was maybe kind of crazy, because, well, what is the relationship between these two apparently very different things? Until I realized that maybe there was a relationship, because the skills you need to look for typos in a written test, for example, or looking for bugs in code are not that different.
Yes.
Of course, can be different because you need different technical skills, but the soft skills are not that different. You need attention to detail, for example. And so when I understood that, and I understood that maybe I was not that crazy, like I believed before, and I was able to get across this message to the interviewer, I got the job I was looking for, and the job that was the most important for me as a tester, because it was the most challenging and the most rewarding for me as a tester. I don't know if you want me to explain more about this experience or...
Well, we'll obviously talk through it. I just wanted to say that, we've had similar starts. I mean, I come from a development background. I was a Java developer, and then suddenly I was asked to test code all of a sudden, test the product all of a sudden. I was like, wait, I just test my own code. I do not know anything about testing the product. What are you talking about? And I mean, that was way back in 2000 when it happened. And since then I've been doing this, and I don't want to leave this profession so easily unless somebody is making me a TV show host or something like that. So anyways, so quite an interesting journey, because for somebody with a telecommunications engineering degree to do Catalan proofreading and then to do testing, well, is quite a turn, if I may say. Okay, so as an engineer, you could have probably, excelled in a totally different dimension, but then you choose to do, a course in Catalan proofreading, and then suddenly you started doing testing, and then, you are one of the best testers that I have met so far.
Yeah.
Because, and I say this because with authority, because the way you put things out, the way you describe things, and in my introduction I said that it is a difficult thing for people to call a spade a spade. What it is, you just put it out, and if the audience doesn't know yet, the thing that I noticed about ILEANA in her profile the first time was the hashtag that she uses. I stop people, or rather I help stop people buying lies, if I'm correct.
I help people stop buying lies. Yes.
I help people stop buying lies. Yeah, so this is what I noticed, and then I just dug a little deeper, trying to understand why ILEANA was using this, and I found that, correct me here, ILEANA, I found that you have a very strong desire to tell the people that, hey, wait, this is not what it seems like. This is the truth behind it. So look for this before you put your money on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So please tell us more about it.
Well, this is a tough topic because I think it goes hand in hand with integrity. And there's a thing I don't like to sell, which are lies. But it turns out this is, in my opinion, one of the things are more easy to sell nowadays, because, and this happened as much in software testing as in Agile, which are the two things I really love. And this is because people tend to buy very easily illusions. And this is in testing happens when people think that if their product does what is expected to do, everything is fine. They don't need to look for anything else. There are no problem at all, because the problem just does what is expected to do. So it's perfect. And so when you can even automate this process to tell people that everything is fine, that they are very, very eager to buy this kind of tools, to buy illusions, and they don't pay attention to the real problems that are still there. And if nobody tells them about these problems, their customer will do that sooner or later. So I feel this is very important, because it's part of the responsibility of the job to tell people that testing is not only about demonstrating that a product does what is intended to do. Actually, this is the less challenging thing, and this is something that might be automated sometimes, if it makes sense to do that, if it's worth doing that. But the most interesting part, and the part which brings value to customers, is usually investigating under which circumstances this same product could fail.
Correct.
And this is something which needs to be investigated, because if nobody does that, the customer will have to deal with problems sooner or later, and so the companies which provided the customer with this product will have to deal with this problem too. This is why I think this is important, even though it seems that people are talking only about fancy tools, automated testing, which is something which doesn't even exist. I don't know if sorry. When I mean it's something which doesn't exist, because what you can automate, it's probably the execution of checking, which is a very limited part of this discipline, which needs critical thinking, which needs design, which needs investigation, exploration, asking questions, a lot of things that cannot be automated. So when people buy the delusion that testing is only about automating checks, they probably do that because they don't know what else needs to be investigated and explored. So if nobody tells them that, who will do? So I think this is why I think we as testers need to explain people that. So even if they ask for automation or test cases or whatever other things they want to have, just
quality assurance.
Quality assurance, another another topic. Assuring that software is bug-free. How can we do that?
Well, I know. So I quite agree with you on those points, and you made a few controversial statements already, which I definitely like to thrive on controversies. Okay, but I think there is a need for the industry to take a step back and look at things. Okay, in retrospective and see. Okay, where are we going with this? I know that there are a lot of tool vendors in the market who are trying to sell their automation tools, saying this will be 10%, 90% faster, or this will bring your customer, 50% times better quality of product. I mean, how do you bring those numbers? This is absolutely crazy. I mean, in fact, I saw an advertisement yesterday, and it spoke about bringing three things together. Their tool spoke about bringing three things together. And the three things are manual testing, exploratory testing, and automated test management. Can you, in your wildest imagination, think of the weird set of lies that are being served to the customer through this? Okay, so yeah, it's crazy, and I completely agree with you. And I wanted the world to hear your perspective on that particular hashtag, and that's why you use it, which is quite essential. And since we are talking of hashtags, there is a more popular hashtag you use these days, and that's something to do with LinkedIn. LinkedIn needs, what is that?
LinkedIn needs to undergo genuine software testing. Sorry.
Well, so for those of you who don't know, LinkedIn is probably the only platform where ILEANA is, if I'm not wrong. And
Yes,
if you think that she's on Facebook or something, well then that's not her. That's definitely not her. You probably need to inform ILEANA that there is an imposter there. So
no.
what ILEANA has done or managed to do is do so much of testing that LinkedIn more or less has become our playground for now. And you and I both know, ILEANA, that normally in products we have to look for bugs, but in LinkedIn we have to look for working functionality because it's just bugs everywhere. And the only thing
it's too easy.
So yeah, so tell us your experience about that and that hashtag.
Well, first of all, I love LinkedIn. I spend too much time on LinkedIn, by the way. But the thing is, I like it as a tool to connect with people, to get to know new people. I like the fact you can be in touch with people from different parts of the world, with different background, different experience, different languages, different culture, whatever. And I really like the fact there are people who recommend to have people with the same skills you have, or the same background, things like that. I don't really agree with that. I like to have a very diverse network with people with very different profiles. So there are not only testers in my network, but as a tester, as I spend too much time, as I said before, in this platform, I can't refrain myself from noticing bugs. There are a lot of bugs on LinkedIn.
Oh, yes.
And it happened also that one day a colleague sent me an article about how different famous company test. There was Google, Facebook, Apple, whatever, and there was also LinkedIn. So, well, I made the mistake to to open this article and read how LinkedIn test. And well, the article was old, but it was kind of shocking because they said something like, well, when all the tests, when we are finished writing all the test cases, then we can start testing, something like that. So it was a very traditional old style mindset. We need to have all the requirements, and then we'll write down all the test cases, then they need to be linked to the requirements, and then we are finished with that, you start testing. And this is why this platform is so bad, because this is why there are a lot of bugs, because it's so disconnected, the testing activity with the building activity of this platform. This also related to my understanding of Agile. I really love Agile because it's an opportunity for testers to work with other profiles, programmers, business analysts, system engineers, whatever, at the same time. And I think this is very important, to do things at the same time with other profiles. But it's also important to understand that testing shouldn't be done after all the other things. So testing doesn't need to wait until coding is finished to start. And similarly, doesn't need to wait until all the test cases are written down to start. Testing can start at every moment, and it's really powerful when it's an exploration activity, not when it's just checking activity. This test case pass, this case doesn't pass, and probably this when this mindset is in place, usually all the tests pass because someone wrote the test case to make them pass, not to to see how the product really worked. Yes. So well, I started this series of posts. Well, I already have a series of posts about software testing, other things on my blog. but I wanted to, I decided to start another series about software testing specific for LinkedIn, and I didn't, I don't publish this on my blog. This is specific for LinkedIn, so I published there this short post about their bugs, and it's for fun, but I try to make it.
Well, I will tell you something, and I'm saying this on the recording. This will be on YouTube. So LinkedIn should probably hire you. They will save a lot of cost in terms of bugs that they are all anyways losing, and they'll already have a lot of resources to fine tune their product and make it better. So they should hire you. So, and I'm saying this publicly because I know, and I've been a testimony to some of the testing that you have been doing, and I'm really, inspired by the work that you do. So,
Thanks for the endorsement.
well, something that I have noticed about you is also to talk about agile. So when you talk about all these things, like for example, you were just saying that you don't have to wait till the very end to sort of start testing, or you don't have to wait till you finish writing test cases till you actually start doing stuff. When you are saying that, uh, do you really think that a lot of companies actually follow that philosophy in agile, or do you really think? I mean, do you really think, just to make it a little simple, do you really think people take agile seriously?
Good question. I think they try to take it seriously, but maybe they don't get it. And I can feel empathy for all these people and companies who try to be agile, because everybody wants to be agile nowadays, but they seem to not understand that you cannot be agile with the same mindset you had before. So what I see too often is trying to do the same old stuff, just with some new fancy labels. For example, it's very common. I don't know if it's your experience too, but in Spain it's very common when a company, but people within a company think they are agile if they are doing a mini waterfall. So the programmers start coding, they implement their stuff, and after some time, if you are lucky, maybe within the same sprint, but after the programmer finished their task, the testers start testing. And if you are not that lucky, maybe in the next sprint directly, they start testing. This is because most people, and so the company they work for, generally still believe that testing cannot start until programming is finished.
Yeah.
So they try to be agile, but their understanding is, well, we cannot do better than that. We can go faster, but we cannot start testing before. because they don't know. And it's very sad when, well, there are a lot of managers that still think this way. There are a lot of programmers that think this way, and I can understand it because maybe they don't know about testing. I would really like there were more managers specialized in testing. It looks so they usually are specialized in programming more than in testing. And but the saddest thing is that most testers still believe they cannot start testing until programming is finished. So maybe there is a problem within our own industry. Maybe we don't, we are not able to get across this message to make other testers try other way to do things. Because at the beginning, the old times, I also tested in this way 2-3 months later than the programmer, after the programmer implemented a functionality, for example. And my daily activity were, well, testing something implemented a long time ago and asking the programmer, what did you do 2 or 3 months ago? How did you solve the bugs? How did you implement this functionality? There are lack of documentation as usual. And I liked my job as a tester, but I felt it was not really, there was something wrong. It was not really efficient this way, because you are distracting another person who is doing another thing, and they don't remember what they did 2-3 months ago. So it didn't make sense. So when the company I was working for decided to move to Agile, it was, for me as a tester, was the most rewarding experience, because I started collaborating with everybody at the same time and making decisions, asking questions all together, understanding why we were doing what we were doing all together. And I could start exploratory testing the first day of the sprint, not the last one. And this was possible, and when I explained that every company believes their contest is special, it's impossible to do that because they are, it's very complicated here. We tried, but we can do that here. Every single company believes that. But when I explained them, we did that in a company testing software for medical devices under FDA regulation in a distributed team, part in Spain, part in the US. And this software was related to hardware. And there were also interaction with chemical reagents. So this was a very complex system environment, and I could do that as a tester. I could start testing the first day of the sprint. So why you can't do that?
Yeah.
It's because, and I think there is a lot of misunderstanding about testing, about Agile, and when they are combined, it's when the worst the worst things happen, really, because people start feeling frustrated because they go faster, but they feel they are not bringing more value. They feel stressed, then they don't make sense of what they are doing.
Right. Well, I completely understand. I completely understand the point that you're trying to make, and I also believe that the same is actually true for a lot of companies. Um, One of the popular beliefs these days is the fact that people can actually get away by not having testers in their projects, and they have a sort of a weird test strategy. They can say, okay, anybody can test. Testing is no big deal. We can have developers do the testing. We can have business analysts do the testing. Uh, we can possibly ask the product owner to maybe do some testing. I don't know, all sort of weird combinations. They forget that testing is a specialist job. And I keep saying this, that quality is everyone's responsibility, but testing is not everyone's responsibility, because not everybody can test well. Okay, everybody can test probably, yes, but they cannot test it well enough. You do not everybody has that mindset to to understand that, okay, there is a lot of critical thinking that goes into it. There is a lot of analysis that goes into it. There is a lot of effort that goes into it in finding things which others are not able to find. Questioning. The, there is a skill, that is also a skill, to be able to ask questions. To Coming back to your example, I mean, uh, saying things the way they are. If something is not right, then you say it out that it's not right. It's not like, okay, you just make it a little nice and you say, okay, you know what, it can probably be fixed in the next release, maybe. No, you don't decide, right? You put it out and let the stakeholders decide. I mean, it's as simple as that. If people feel that it is important to be fixed now, it gets fixed now. If people feel that, okay, they can live with it for maybe another release, then it's their call. You've done your job in passing that information. And with agile, there is so much of misunderstanding. When you start talking about agile, immediately people start talking about scrum. Now, so agile, scrum is a way of probably imbibing the agile philosophy, but it is not the same. I mean, I had a guest on my TesterSpeak episode. He's a good friend. He's one of the enablers of the test chat group, Sachin Sharma, and he explained it very beautifully. He said, look at the agile manifesto, and then look at the scrum guide. The scrum guide has no mention of the word agile, not even once. Okay, and people immediately, they when they start looking at agile, they start talking about scrum. I mean, and people think, okay, if I have done daily stand up, if I have done a retrospective, then I am agile. Okay.
And people like to think that it's that easy, and then really believe it.
And like you said, I mean, you mentioned a very good point, that people start doing mini waterfall and then start thinking, oh, this is agile. This is quite weird way of doing things. Now, based on what you just mentioned in your answer, I thought of a very interesting situation, and I want you to respond to that. So, when people are in a situation where they are testing this sort of a complex product which has got a hardware which is safety critical, which is important, what would be your advice to the management, in terms of how do you want to get the testing to happen so that they get the best results? What would be your advice?
My advice would be to think about risk. And when I think about risk, I think about every kind of risk. Obviously, safety critical product. I don't need to explain why this is important, but I also mean the risk of building the wrong thing, and this is something most companies don't. Some company don't think enough, maybe. It seems to me some company are very focused on executing tasks, making sure their programmers are executing tasks, are busy, 100% busy all the day. And when I see a situation like that, my first thought is, when are people thinking? Because if you are busy all the time, if you go from a meeting to another meeting and you don't have time to think about anything, and you are required to stay 100% busy all the time, how can you do your job? So my advice to management would be, please let people think about what they are doing and let them know why they are doing what they're doing. Don't hire people just to make them execute task, because yes, maybe this can be automated, but can go dramatically wrong as well. So I think people are, we have this good skill, which is thinking. We should try to make the most of it.
So,
And
sorry, go ahead.
and by the way, I want to mention another thing about Agile and the similarity with the problems I see with testing. Well, Agile put it the very beginning of the manifesto. It's people and interaction over processes and tools. If the manifesto for Agile software development says that, is because they meant it really. People are more important than tools. And this is true for Agile and it's true for testing too. But most of the time, people, companies tend to think that the solution is in a tool. So, and they don't understand that there are problems related to people which need to be addressed before buying a fancy tool, which is not going to solve any problem if you don't have the right mindset and the right people in your company.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of people miss the point completely. And I have seen, I was in a discussion once, and the discussion was around DevOps, and the discussion happened, and the first question that comes out is, okay, what tools are we using? I mean, I was like, hang on, do you understand that you're talking about DevOps? DevOps is about a certain particular mindset, a particular way of working, where you need a lot of collaboration, where your focus is on continuous improvement. Have you spoken about those elements? No, you're thinking about tools. I mean, and just because somebody has successfully implemented a CI/CD pipeline, successfully implemented, I mean, I put that in quotes, just because if somebody has done it, doesn't mean that it is going to work the same way for you. Your context may be completely different. Now, going to the same example, if LinkedIn today says that no, we have now of course they have changed their way of working. It's microservices, and they can still have a continuous integration pipeline, doing a lot of stuff for them. But is the same thing going to apply to the same safety critical system that you were talking about? The device, the medical device that you were talking about. Will the same thing work? Certainly not. It will not work, because and you cannot wait for a patient to die to prove that. So I mean,
Really.
well, okay. So moving, I mean, we can talk about this probably the whole evening if you want, but I think it is good in the interest of time that we focus on certain things that I was going to talk to you. So another question that I wanted to ask you is, very recently you attended the Rapid Software Testing Explored class with Michael Bolton. Okay, two questions on that. How was your experience? And one thing from that class that you would like to share with the testers in general.
Sorry, I understood the first question, but there was a problem with the second one.
Yeah, it froze for a bit. My first question was, what was your experience in a class with Michael Bolton? Second question was, what is that one message that you want to give to all the testers that you learned from the RST class, and then you want to give that message to others?
Okay. Well, my experience was great. I have no words to describe this experience. It's a really life-changing experience, and I mean it. And I think I will go even further. You can't call yourself a tester if you haven't taken this course, and if even if you have, you probably realize there is a long journey to go through, because it's unbelievable. Well, I really think Michael is from another planet, but
what ILEANA is saying about you.
But the message in the end is to tester is don't limit yourself. And what this course teaches us is that the easy question is not going to be the right question, probably. So don't stop thinking about weird things, because weird things happen in real life. So this would be my recommendation.
Great. I asked you this because I've also had the opportunity of having been on one of the RST classes, and it was a class taken by both James and Michael together. So both of them were teaching that class, and it was a phenomenal experience, life-changing one. I can definitely say that. And I completely agree with your message. I just wanted to modify that a little bit and add something on my own, that if you guys are really thinking about testing seriously, then you have to start thinking first. Most importantly, you have to start thinking, and you have to develop that skill of asking questions, of questioning the obvious. Something may seem very obvious, but you have to ask that question. There are a lot of times we say, okay, let's assume. Stop that assumption. Test that assumption instead. Instead of assuming something, you should test that assumption, and only then you might want to do that. And for the rest, of course, you can of course talk to Michael and James and people like that, and now ILEANA also.
Yeah.
So they will tell you a lot more about the RST thing, which is good, which is a good experience. And one particular thing that I wanted to mention, that we are not trying to specifically market the RST class, but we are just trying to discuss the shift in mindset that class has brought in us. So I wanted to clarify this to the audience, that this is not some kind of a marketing thing for RST, but in fact,
Yeah.
it gives you a different perspective towards testing. It makes you think, and of course, there are other areas which in testing, other courses, which of course you can do, and you can gain different perspectives. Similarly, RST will give you a different perspective. So yeah, that's that. Now, before I let you
Maybe
go,
I was a little too extreme before when I said nobody should call themselves a tester if they are.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, that's the kind of emotion we attach to a particular course if you have attended and things like that. But that's absolutely fine. And I just wanted to clarify it to the audience that we were just talking about a class that we attended, because I realized that pretty recently you attended and I also attended. So I was just checking on your feeling for the class, if it was the same as mine.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we concur. And so it was just well,
No,
so before
I agree. It's very important what you say about assumptions. As a tester, you can't believe in assumptions. You have to challenge assumptions. This is
and
what our
as a
job is
tester,
about.
I always believe that we often tend to live with the status quo, saying, oh, this is the way it works. Well, definitely not. You've got to make sure that this is the way it works. Okay, I wouldn't believe if somebody says, oh, that's the way it works. I'm like, no, let me just verify that first for myself. Okay, and then I will believe if I have to do so. So that's what I think. Well, so before I let you go, I have to do two sets of questions. One is a rapid fire that I'm going to do with you. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and in any question which has a choice, you will have to tell me why that choice. Okay?
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be straightforward. So, starting, number 1, your favorite food.
I love Indian cuisine, but my favorite food is Portuguese cod. Cod. I don't remember the name of the fish, but
Cod, yes, cod.
cod. Okay.
Portuguese cod, okay. That is an excellent choice. I was in Portugal last year, and I have very fond memories of what you're talking about. So, great. Okay, so if you are watching a World Cup match between Spain and Italy, who would you support?
I don't really like football. It depends. I was a supporter of Barça, Football Club Barcelona, but only when Pep Guardiola was the coach, but because I really like it as a coach. So, well, I don't mind. I am not a good supporter.
Okay. So
but my favorite sport to watch on TV is MotoGP, and I was a strong supporter of Valentino Rossi.
Valentino Rossi, okay. I think we have similar interests. Okay, so Valentino Rossi and Max Biaggi were the two guys I was in absolute love with. I mean, these two were...
I hated Max Biaggi, but...
No, I as an outsider, I love the back and forth
Yeah.
between Valentino Rossi, of course, has ruled many hearts. So we know. Okay, so this is interesting to discover another MotoGP fan here, which is good. Okay, my next question, maybe a strange one, but anyways, here it is. What do you prefer, a cappuccino or a mojito?
It depends on the hour of the day. For breakfast, a cappuccino. And by the way, an Italian person usually doesn't drink a cappuccino after lunch, like foreign people usually do. We just take it for breakfast. But in the afternoon or in the evening, mojito would be better. And by the way, I'm very good at preparing gin and tonic.
Okay, good. So I know where to go to in my next visit to Spain. Okay. All right. The next question that I have for you is, if you could change one thing in the agile way of working, what would it be? Just the one thing.
In the agile way of working, I wouldn't change the ideal agile way of working, but I would change the way people get it. So
Good. That was a trick question. That was a trick question, and you did pretty well on that one. And that brings me to the last question of this rapid fire. So, what's your favorite holiday destination?
favorite holiday destination. Well, I tried when it was possible to travel. I like it to change destination. I like to celebrate my birthday with a trip, and I would say my last favorite trip was in Porto, Portugal.
Porto?
Porto is
Yeah.
beautiful city.
Oh yes, that's been on the radar for a while. I wanted to go to Porto, but my family, my in-laws were there, and everybody wanted to visit Faro for a change. So we went in a different direction altogether.
Mm.
So Porto is there definitely in my radar as well. Okay, that was fun. Now, so a very good interaction, Ileana, with that. Now the final question for you is, what does Ileana do when she's not testing?
Can I answer with two answers?
Yes, please.
I like to define myself as a software tester by day and wine tasting by night. So this is the first part of the answer. And I think maybe there will be three parts of the answer, if you don't mind. I like to play with my cat.
I know.
I love cats, and I love my cat, of course. And I love writing, and I like, well, I mentioned before my blog, but I like to write every kind of stuff. I like to write short stories, whatever. I really enjoy writing.
Yes, and for the audience, I'm going to put a link to Ileana's blog along with her LinkedIn profile in the description of this video so that you can check it out once you have checked out the interview. Ileana, thank you so much.
This is very kind of you. Thank you.
No, I will certainly do that because I have been reading it, and I have to tell this. Okay, since we are talking about the blog, there have been many instances when people have said something in a comment to the post, and the moment people ask Ileana a question, Ileana is like, okay, go read this. I have written about it a long time ago. She has the answer to almost all the questions that you have in her blog. You ask her a question, she's like, okay, go read this. It contains, and she has that specific answer. And this has stumped me a few times. This has happened recently in one of the posts where we were both commenting. Ileana was doing it, I was doing it, and then somebody asked a question, and Ileana was, boom, go for it, read it. So that's a good thing, and that's
Which
why
means I'm getting lazy because I just share a link to the article instead of.
it's taken a lot of effort for you to put together that blog. It's a very good piece. I have read it, and I like reading it from time to time. It's pretty good. I think it's pretty useful for testers. So I would recommend that to testers. Definitely, that has got a lot of stuff. Um, Plus, Ileana's posts and articles on LinkedIn are worth reading as well. And if you understand Spanish or Catalan, you might want to read some of her work there. She's done some, even Italian, she's done some really cool work there. So yeah, so wonderful, Ileana. I mean, finally we did the interview. I'm so glad. I was trying to do this and schedule this for a long time, but then things have happened, and then I have a long list, a lot of other people to talk to as well, but then the scheduling, we have to follow a sequence. So
Yeah, you're very busy. I know.
yeah, I mean, this has been one of the good things about the whole COVID situation, that this idea came to me, and I've been able to interact with a lot of testers that I have known, either online or even personally, but then we've never had a chance to have a formal conversation. So this platform gives me that opportunity, where people share their stories, I share my feelings, and then people react to it. They have their things to say or talk about it. So it's a fun experience, and I'm glad that this happened, that I got a chance to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you even more. There are a lot of interesting things that are still remaining. So when we do a chapter 2 or a season 2 or whatever we might call it, you will definitely hear from me once again. So thank you for talking to me this evening, and as they say in Spanish, gracias. Pues,
Gracias. Thank you, Brijesh, and thank you for this initiative that I think is very helpful for other testers too. And thanks for your time, because, well, I guess it very a very challenging activity, but it's needed. So please keep doing that. And
so much.
well, thanks for having me. And it was a pleasure to meet you in person. Let's say in person somehow from the distance.
Awesome. And when the scare goes away and we are again coming back to some sort of normalcy to travel, I will obviously, Spain being one of my favorite destinations, I will definitely visit. And now I know that there is somebody in Spain I can go to for some good advice on wine.
Great.
and I am not afraid of cats, so no reason for me to worry there again. So thank you, Ileana.
Deal.
I like that. Thank you, Ileana. Have a wonderful evening, and
Likewise.
see you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.